He shouldn't have looked through the keyhole, because what stared back wasn't human, and it was waiting for him. He shouldn't have looked through the keyhole, because what stared back wasn't human, and it was waiting for him. They said no one ever returned from room 13, but when Arav touched the doorknob, something ancient woke inside.
Mr. Midnight.
He
The
shouldn't
St.
have looked through
Helena
the
Girls'
keyhole,
Boarding School
because what
stood
stared
at
back
the edge of an
wasn't
old
human,
forest, its
and it was
stone
waiting for
walls
him.
soaked with decades of secrets.
He shouldn't have
On the
looked through the
farthest
keyhole,
wing of the building,
because what
past
stared
a
back
creaking
wasn't
wooden
human,
corridor that
and it
teachers
was waiting
avoided
for
after
him.
dark, there was
They
a
said
door
no one ever
dared
returned
to
from
open.
room 13.
Room number 13.
But when Arav touched the doorknob,
For years,
something
students
ancient
whispered
woke
about
inside.
the room.
He
Some
shouldn't
said
have
it
looked
belonged
through
to
the
a girl
keyhole,
who went missing.
because what stared
Others
back
claimed it was
wasn't
cursed.
human,
The truth
and it was
was
waiting for
simpler,
him.
but far darker. The room had
He
been
shouldn't have
sealed
looked through
shut
the
in
keyhole,
1985
because what stared
after
back
something
wasn't
inside
human,
looked back.
and it was waiting for him.
The story begins
They
on a
said
rainy
no one ever
October
returned from
evening
room
when a
13.
transfer student
But when
named
Arav
Arif
touched the
Malhotra
doorknob,
arrived.
something
He was
ancient
quiet,
woke inside.
sharp-eyed,
He shouldn't have
the
looked
kind
through the
who
keyhole,
noticed things others
because what
didn't.
stared back
The
wasn't
warden
human,
led him through the
and it was
echoing
waiting for
hallways,
him.
their walls lined with portraits of past
He
students
shouldn't have looked
whose
through the
eyes
keyhole,
seemed to follow
because
every
what
step.
stared back wasn't
This
human,
is your dormitory,
and it was waiting for
the
him.
warden said, pointing
They said
to
no
room
one
12.
ever returned from room
Stay
13.
away from room 13.
But when Arav touched
Do you
the
understand?
doorknob, something
Arif
ancient
nodded,
woke inside.
though curiosity
He shouldn't have
flickered
looked
in
through
his
the keyhole,
eyes.
because
That
what
night,
stared back
while the storm
wasn't
howled
human,
outside
and it
the
was waiting
generator
for him.
lights flickered, Arif heard it for the first
He
time.
shouldn't have looked through
a
the
soft
keyhole,
knock,
because
slow
what stared
and
back
deliberate,
wasn't human,
coming from the locked
and it was
door
waiting
next to
for him.
his.
They said
One,
no one ever returned
two,
from room 13.
3.
But when Arav touched
He
the doorknob,
froze.
something
No
ancient
footsteps,
woke inside.
no whisper.
He shouldn't
just
have looked through the
silence
keyhole,
after the knocks.
because what stared
The
back
next morning, he
wasn't
asked
human,
his roommate, Rahul,
and it was waiting for
who's
him.
in room 13? Rahul's spoon
He shouldn't
clattered
have looked
against
through
his
the
plate.
keyhole,
Don't
because
talk
what
about
stared
that room.
back wasn't
Don't even
human,
look at it.
and it was
Why?
waiting for him.
Arif pressed.
They said no one
Because
ever
she
returned
looks
from
back.
room 13.
That night,
But when
Arif
Arav
waited.
touched the doorknob,
The corridor was
something
empty.
ancient woke
Midnight
inside.
crept in.
He shouldn't
and
have
then
looked through
again,
the keyhole,
the knock,
because what
louder
stared
this
back
time.
wasn't human,
1,
and it was
2,
waiting for him.
3. Then
He shouldn't have
faintly,
looked through the
a
keyhole,
girl's voice.
because what stared
Let
back
me in.
wasn't human.
Against
was
every
waiting for him.
instinct, Arif stepped
They said
into the
no one
hallway.
ever returned
The
from
number
room
13 on the door seemed
when
freshly
Arav
painted,
touched the doorknob,
almost glowing
something
in the dim
ancient
light.
woke inside.
He leaned closer.
He shouldn't have looked through
the
the
keyhole
keyhole,
stared back
because
like
what
a
stared
single
back
eye.
wasn't human,
He shouldn't have looked.
and it was waiting for him.
Through the keyhole, he saw a girl standing
He shouldn't have
perfectly
looked through
still
the
in a
keyhole,
dusty room.
because what
Long
stared
black
back
hair,
wasn't human,
pale skin,
and it was
a
waiting for
crimson
him.
school uniform.
They said
Her
no one
eyes
ever
were
returned
closed.
from room 13.
Her hands hum at her sides
But when
like dead
Arav
weight.
touched the doorknob,
Then
something
her eyes
ancient woke
snapped
inside.
open.
He
They
shouldn't
weren't
have looked
normal.
through the keyhole,
They were completely
because what
black,
stared back
like ink
wasn't
spilling
human,
through glass.
and it was
and
waiting
she
for him.
was no longer behind the door. Her face
He shouldn't have
filled
looked
the
through the
keyhole.
keyhole,
Arif
because
stumbled
what stared back
heart
wasn't
pounding.
human,
The
and it
next
was
day,
waiting for
the
him.
teachers told him it was
They said
probably
no
a
one
prank,
ever returned
but
from room
Rahul
13.
whispered the real story.
But when Arav touched
In
the doorknob,
1985,
something
a girl
ancient
named
woke
Mira
inside.
stayed in room 13.
He shouldn't have looked through the keyhole.
She was quiet,
because what stared
obsessed with
back
the mirror
wasn't
above her
human,
bed. One
and it was
night,
waiting for
during
him.
a solar eclipse, she gouged out her own
He shouldn't have
eyes,
looked through the
saying
keyhole,
something from the mirror
because what
wouldn't
stared
stop
back
staring
wasn't
at her.
human,
The next
and it was
morning,
waiting for
the
him.
room was locked.
They said
She
no one
was
ever
never
returned
found.
from room 13.
That night, the
But when
knocks came
Arav
again.
touched the doorknob,
But this time,
something
they came
ancient
from
woke
Arif's
inside.
side of the wall.
He shouldn't have
the
looked through
keyhole
the keyhole,
bled black liquid
because
that
what
snaked
stared
across
back
the floor.
wasn't human,
The air turned icy,
and it was waiting for
lights
him.
flickering. Arif grabbed his flashlight
shouldn't have
and
looked
pushed
through
the
the
door.
keyhole,
It opened.
because what stared back
The room
wasn't
smelled like
human,
wet earth and rot.
it was waiting for
Dust
him.
swirled in the air
They
like
said
ash.
no one ever
His
returned
breath
from
came
room
out in
13.
white clouds.
But when
Whispers
Arav touched the
filled
doorknob,
room.
something
Look at
ancient
me.
woke inside.
He lifted
He shouldn't
the
have
cloth.
looked through the keyhole,
The mirror reflected
because what
nothing.
stared back
no
wasn't
Arif,
human,
no room,
and it was
just
waiting for him.
endless darkness, shifting like water.
He shouldn't have looked
A
through
pale
the keyhole,
hand pressed from
because
the
what
inside
stared
of the
back
mirror,
wasn't
leaving
human,
a smear
and
of
it was
black
waiting
blood.
for him.
Then another hand.
They said no one ever
then a
returned
face.
from room 13.
Mira's face.
But when
twisted,
Arav touched the doorknob,
eyeless, mouth
Something
stretched
ancient
wide
woke
in a
inside.
soundless scream.
He shouldn't have looked
The
through
mirror
the keyhole,
shattered outward,
because what
glass
stared
slicing
back
through the air.
wasn't human,
Erev turned to
and it was
run,
waiting for
but the
him.
door slammed shut. The room
He
pulsed
shouldn't have
like a
looked through the
heartbeat.
keyhole,
Shadows
because what
crawled from
stared
the
back
broken mirror,
wasn't human,
twisting together
and it was
into
waiting
Mira's
for him.
shape. She floated
said
above
no
the
one ever
ground,
returned from
hair
room
writhing
13.
like smoke.
But when
Her voice
Arav touched the
echoed,
doorknob,
layered with
something
dozens of
ancient
others.
woke inside.
I waited
He
for
shouldn't have
someone
looked
to
through
look.
the keyhole,
Rahul
because what
burst in
stared
shouting
back
his name,
wasn't human,
but the moment he crossed the
and it was
threshold,
waiting for him.
the door slammed behind him. The
He
lights
shouldn't
died.
have looked through the keyhole.
Inside, the
because
boys
what
saw
stared
rows
back
of mirrors
wasn't
forming
human,
on the walls,
and it was
each
waiting for
reflecting
him.
a different nightmare.
They said no one
Rahul
ever returned
hanging
from
upside
room
down,
13.
Arev's
But
eyes
when
blackened,
Arav touched the
Mira
doorknob,
standing
something
behind them.
ancient woke
They
inside.
realized the room
He
wasn't
shouldn't
a
have
room
looked through the
anymore.
keyhole,
It was
because
a trap.
what stared back
Erev
wasn't
grabbed a
human,
shard of mirror, his
and it was
hand
waiting
bleeding,
for him.
and slashed the largest one. It
He
screamed.
shouldn't have looked through the
Mira
keyhole,
lunged,
because
grabbing
what
Erev's
stared
face
back
with icy
wasn't human,
hands.
and it
"Give
was
me
waiting
your
for him.
eyes," she hissed.
They said no one
The
ever
entire
returned
building
from room
shuddered.
13.
Lights in other
But when
dorms
Arav
flickered.
touched the doorknob,
Teachers ran toward the
something
wing,
ancient
but found the
woke
hallway
inside.
stretching
He
endlessly.
shouldn't have looked through
the door to
keyhole,
room 13
because
had
what
vanished,
stared back
replaced by
wasn't
a solid
human,
wall.
and it was
Inside,
waiting for him.
Erev and Rahul were standing in a space that
He
shouldn't
shouldn't have looked
exist.
through the keyhole,
A black void,
because what stared
mirrors
back
floating
wasn't
around
human,
them like stars.
and it was waiting for him.
Mira circled them.
They said no
Her
one
voice
ever
came
returned
from everywhere.
room 13.
One of you
But
must
when Arav
stay.
touched the doorknob,
One must
something
see for
ancient
me.
woke inside.
Rahul began to
He shouldn't
scream
have looked through the
as shadows
keyhole,
pulled him toward
because
a
what
mirror.
stared back
Erev
wasn't
grabbed him,
human,
but Mira's
and it
hand
was
clamped
waiting
onto
for him.
Erev's eyes, blinding pain.
He shouldn't
a
have looked
flash
through
of
the
white.
keyhole,
Then
because what stared back
silence.
wasn't human.
The next
and it was
morning,
waiting for
room
him.
13 was back.
They said no one ever
perfectly
returned
normal.
from room 13.
The door was closed.
But when Arav
Teachers
touched
broke it
the
open.
doorknob,
They found
something
Rahul
ancient
curled
woke
up in a
inside.
corner,
He
muttering
shouldn't
to
have looked
himself.
through the keyhole,
His hair
because what
turned
stared
white
back
overnight.
wasn't human,
Erev was
and
gone.
it was waiting for him.
On the mirror, written in fresh blood,
He
were
shouldn't have
3
looked through
words.
the keyhole,
He
because what
looked
stared back wasn't human.
The school
was
quietly shut
waiting
the
for
wing
him.
again. The door
They
to
said
room
no one ever
13 was
returned
sealed.
from room 13.
But at night,
But when
sometimes,
Arav touched the
students
doorknob,
in room 12
something
hear
ancient
it.
woke inside.
1,
He shouldn't have looked through
2,
the keyhole, because
3.
what stared back wasn't
Let
human,
me in.
and it was waiting
And
for
if
him.
anyone dares look through the keyhole,
He
they
shouldn't
see
have looked
not
through the
Mira,
keyhole,
but
because
Erev,
what stared back
his
wasn't
eyes
human,
black as night,
and it was waiting for him.
waiting for someone new
They said
to
no
open
one
the
ever
door.
returned from room 13.